And good morning, my C++ Group 7E students, and welcome to our Zoom meeting. I can see John out there. Hello, John. How are you, John?
I'm good, are you?
I'm good too. John, today is our last Zoom meeting. Are you sad? John, yeah, but don't worry, we're gonna do classes from now on. How's that for a joke?
I'm gonna do, yeah, nice, quite good, not bad.
Yeah, classes is the next lesson.
Classes,
okay, John.
yeah.
So no more Zoom meeting, it's gonna be Zoom classes. Okay, how about another joke I got for us, John? This is a knock joke, right? So knock.
Who's there?
Array.
Array who?
Array of Structs. Yeah. Okay. So that's my joke, and that's my introduction into what we are going to be doing today, John. And I can see a student Marivate is there as well. I think you're from Pretoria West. Student Marivate.
Yes, I am, sir. I'm from Pretoria West.
Oh, welcome. How's the weather in Pretoria?
Cloudy.
Oh, okay. I'm in Durban. It's lovely and sunny. All right. So thank you very much for joining me. I'm going to start to share my screen. I'm going to start with today's lesson. Now, John was with us last week. And John, last week, Saturday, what did we do, John?
We worked on structs.
Yes, we worked on structs, right? So today we are actually following up on last week's lecture. Now, if you're a teacher, you will know that when I'm teaching a lesson, I have to ensure that I cover the relevant previous knowledge. So John mentioned that last week we did structs. Now, in order for me to ensure that I have a successful outcome in today's lesson, I must ensure that you know what is a struct. Because if you don't know what's a struct, you cannot go into the array of structs. What do you think about that, John?
Sounds good.
Yeah, sounds good. So you know what is structs, right? Student Marivati from Pretoria West, were you here last week?
Yes, I was, sir.
Right, okay, so you are fine with this, right? Yeah. So if you want to learn about today's lesson, arrays of structs, you got to ensure that you go over last week's lesson, which is structs. Both structs and arrays are data structures. I know I made a joke. It was a joke that I said, what's the marriage between arrays and structs? And if you put them two together, you're going to get arrays of structs. So that's what it's all about here, right? And if you don't understand structs, and if you don't understand arrays on its own, it's going to be difficult to combine the two, right? But be that as it may, we'll do a quick revision, and I'll take you through an example. By the way, kudos to Kajal thank you very much, Kajal. I'm not sure if you're on the Zoom session or not, but you will listen to the recording. So because of your request, and you mentioned in our WhatsApp group, would it be possible to cover array of structs? Yes, your wish is my command, and that's why we're doing it today. Then I'll also cover, we did a quick question and answer. We'll go through to our Group 7E Moodle class, and I'm going to answer the research question, what is a struct? What is an array, and what is an array of structs? So I'm putting them all together. John, my screen is fine. Student Marivate, you can see my Wakelet page. Great.
Yes,
great. Thank you, John, for that nod. Great. Then we'll do, why would I want to use the struct? Why would UNISA include structs, and how are we going to use it, right? We'll take a little, if we have time, a past year paper, and we'll check out where structs appear. If you were here last week, like student Marivate and student John, you'll notice that the last question in the past year papers dealt with structs, and I suspect it's going to appear again. Then we'll talk a little bit about my YouTube videos where I'll upload this, and I don't know if you noticed, I'm trying to be a little more professional. I got a YouTube thumbnail, and there's my YouTube thumbnail, and I've got, okay, John, I hope you don't mind me showing off and all of that. I got a PhD. Prinavin has degree. How's that, John? Student Marivati.
That is great, eh?
Yeah, PhD. Prinavin has degree. No, I really do. Okay. But anyway, that's besides fun. Now, why I mention that is, you must know that I'm qualified to teach you, and I know a little bit about programming, all right? And even though I know it, I still have to prep beforehand. So if you go to this Wakelet page, you'll find all my resources and how I decided to teach you. So in order to ensure that today's lesson goes well, I included last week's lesson. And last week's lesson, that was Samuel. My student Samuel had asked me about a struct. And very briefly, a struct simply is a data structure that has a number of fields in it. So this was last week's exercise. John will remember this. I'm not sure if you also remember that I wore a red shirt. Don't think I only have one shirt, John. Red comes out nice in the video. Okay, that's why it is. And I got a red background. So last week we're talking about a shirt, and there's my struct out here. There are 1, 2, 3 fields in the struct, and each field has to be defined by a particular data type. For instance, size. See, my size is a small, medium, or large. It's an integer, or I could have used 32, 28, or 14, or 16. The style, which is a character, and the price, which is float. Now keep this in mind, because when I'm talking about an array of structs, where I'm marrying the two, I'm bringing them two together, that means one of these fields here, John, one of these fields here, student Maravati, is going to have an array in them. Now, let's revise what an array is. An array is also a data structure, but every single element in that array, student John and student Maravati, they are the same. It's homogeneous. I like that word, homogeneous. Each one is the same, right? So if I had to have a struct and one of the fields is an array, and I'm telling you that an array is a data structure, all the elements are the same, you access it by means of its subscript, it has a definite starting point and a definite ending point. That means within that struct, I'm going to have another data structure with the following characteristics. It's the same, all of them must be integer or float or character or strings, and all of them must be accessed by means of its array subscript, okay? So keep that in mind. So this was last week's work, and I've got a screenshot as well, so you'll have access to this, John. You don't have to take down any notes, but good you're taking down notes. I can see a pen in your hand there, John. Thank you. I always like this. When you're taking down notes with the pen, as you are writing it down, it also gets into your brain, right? Psychology, we know about that as well. So that's great. My students in class, they actually come and take photographs of my whiteboard. Then if you want to have extra work, it's also available on the C++ W3 Schools website. So I'm giving you an additional resource. And if you missed out on the YouTube video, there's my link to the YouTube video where I talk to you about tips for the exam. Now, the question on structs, it's the last question I noticed over the past few years. And what will happen is they'll ask you maybe 2, 3, 4 mark questions. They don't want an entire function. They may not want an entire program. In fact, I think they don't want an entire program. You will just need to have the field definitions, and next to the field definitions, types. If you watch this video, that's where you're going to find it out there. By the way, I'm also on Twitter. So if you click on the link, cost1511, group 70 hashtag, hey, I've got some pictures out there as well. So for those of you on Twitter, please join me. And there's the last year's question. So I've got a number of question papers. We're not ready at this time to answer exam questions. We need to sort out our assignments. By July, August, I'm planning on having Zoom meetings. Oh, no more Zoom meetings. This is the last one. We're going to have Zoom classes. Where are we going to do? Yay! Thank you. I made a joke. Thank you. You got the joke there. Student Maravati, yay! That's because lesson 30 is on classes, right? If you're not a computers person, you won't understand the joke. So don't panic if you are unable to answer the past year questions. But I need to put it out there that that's where we are heading. The whole purpose of this course is for you to pass. We're going to aim for 50, but we're going to try and even aim higher once we do the past year papers. And I've got lots of past year papers, and I've got model answers as well. Oops, I shouldn't be saying that on the recording, right? So today's lesson, this is where I'm talking about. I'm taking the very same example from your study guide. So it's not as if I'm making up a new example or anything of that sort. I'm going to be taking the same example from the study guide And the beauty of this is student Maravati is here, student John is here. We're going to run the program, right? And you can stop me and ask me any questions in there. So that's the program. And if Kajal is here, in honor of your question, Kajal, I named it Kajal Array Struct, right? And Samuel from last week, you hear Kajal? Oh, say hello, Kajal. Oh, I thought that was Kajal, okay. All right, so we're going to do that. Now, all these screenshots, you'll notice I only have a function, right? Would you mind switching your mic to don't have a question there? Right. Gilbert, I'm just going to mute you.
Yeah, Brian, I think the sound is coming from Brian.
Oh, the sound is coming from Brian. Okay, I'm muted Brian, right? Okay. I think next week I need to have, when we have our classes and no longer our meetings, one of you need to help me with your muting, right? Okay, so you'll notice that I have a function. And now I'm not talking about functions. We did this a long time ago, fun with functions. Quick revision, a function will have a name. A function can either be a void type or a return type, and we will have parameters in there. We have a value parameter and a reference parameter. So let's go straight into code blocks. So into code blocks, I'm going to go back to my research question. If you're doing PhD studies or master studies, they always have research questions, or they call it a research objective, right? And my research objective here is basically, what is the struct? How do we come up with array of structs? And in order to do that, I am opening up my code blocks, right? So here's my code blocks example. I'm just going to make the screen, I was playing around in my editing functions. I need to learn how to move this Zoom session out, Zoom mic, right? So let's go to my settings. Let's go to my environment. And let's make the screen, let's go and make the font a little bit larger, right? Let's go to general settings. And for some reason, my general. Let's go back. Let's go to settings, editor. And code blocks is taking a bit too long to open up. Right, let's see whose mic is on there. Redani. I'm just muting you, Redani. Some feedback. Right, so let's go. I'm just going to change my font size. You can do this as well in code blocks. Again, I'm teaching you something for free. I'm just making it 16 so that I don't have to wear my glasses. And I'm closing that. Right, so that should still be a slightly bigger. Right, great. So let's look at the question. I basically copied and pasted this from the study guide. If I look at the way my struct has been defined, by the way, this programming language, C++, you got to define the variables beforehand. There's other programming languages where as soon as you start to use it, the compiler kind of defines it. You know, you don't have to declare anything. It's like, you know, when you're going to the airport and you're doing an international travel, they ask you, do you have anything to declare? The same thing with these variable declarations. So in an array of structs, you got to declare in advance what it is that you are using. And now, because you know the definition of an array is a data structure, all the elements are the same, as a different starting point, a different ending point, you access it by means of its subscript. If you know that, then you'll realize that you have to declare it in advance. So that's what happens out here in line number 6. I'm declaring it in advance, right? Somebody's mic is on. Baliwa, right? I'm going to mute you. Sorry about that. If you have a question, raise your hand, and if I don't answer you, stop me or scream out, right? So one of the things in the Zoom session is that I get to talk to you and to tell you a story about a program. So in this program, I'm going to say, once upon a time, there's a program, and in line number 6, I'm declaring num marks to be 4. right? To have 4 spaces. I'm actually reserving space in memory. Last week or the week before, somebody asked me a question about this memory allocation. I honestly really don't know how the memory allocation works. But what I do know is when I declare an array, in this case, my array is called num_marks, I need to ensure that I am asking the compiler to reserve 4 spaces for me, right? So it's like you're going to a restaurant or you're going to eat out or wherever, and you're telling the guys, please keep this table aside for me. I want 4 people to be able to sit there. So if anybody else comes in, no, you cannot use that table. It's reserved. So that's what this means. Int num_marks equal to 4. And the word const tells me that it is a constant value. It will not change throughout the running of the program. Whether I use it in the main program or not, that value will stay the same. And that comes from knowing the definition of an array. So if any of you are on my Group 70 class, you'll notice I have a number of quizzes out there. And I ask you theoretical questions about programming. Programming is such, and I should know, I've been studying it all my life, okay, all my adult life as such, right? Oh, yeah, and my schooling career as well, right? Standard 8, 9, 10. You got to know some theory. And you cannot just say, oh, I'm going to learn all the theory, or cannot only do the programming. You got to know the both. It's like you're learning to drive a car. You got to learn your learner's license, know the rules of the road, keep to the left, stop at the stop street. And also you got to practice driving the car. So same thing happens with programming. So here I'm declaring it. And the name of the array is called num_marks. Now I just want to whet your appetite about arrays as well. Arrays can be 1-dimensional or 2-dimensional or even 3-dimensional. We even talk about multi-dimensional arrays. John, did you know that, John, that we can have multi-dimensional arrays? John?
Yeah, I have a bit of an idea.
Okay, great. You knew that, right? Thank you, John, for that. Student Marivati, did you know that as well? That you can have multi-valued or multi-dimensional?
I didn't know about multi-dimensional, but I thought you can only go up to 3D. So this is very interesting to me.
Okay, well, you can have more, but I never use them, right? So for our purposes, 2-dimensional is okay, right? You have a row and a column. In this instance, these are all rows. So if I look at the definition of a struct, I'm talking about student marks right now. All of you can identify with that. You have 2 fields in there, name and student number. Both are declared to be of type string. Now you'll notice they're actually saving a line over here. Last week's lesson, if I quickly go and call up my last week's lesson and my shirt example, there's my last week's lesson out here. You'll notice I said size has to be 1 field. Style has to be 1 field. Price has to be 1 field. And the same thing will occur when I'm talking about my example. Let me go back to my shared screen. In this example, I'm simply saving a field and I'm calling it, where's my field? There we go. I'm simply saving 1 line of code, right? And I'm putting them together. It's like variables as well, where I'm declaring, if I had to say int num1, int num2, int num3, all I'm going to say is int num1, num2, num3. So that's what takes place in line number 9. Now, this is the change. This is where array of structs comes into play, all right? Where I'm using int marks, num marks. So within the struct, one of the fields is an array. But this array has 4 elements in there, right? So you can think of it as 0, 1, 2, 3. By the way, in computers, you start counting from 0, right? It's a weird concept, I know. But if you come to think of it, if you ask me how many people are in an empty room, you got to say 0. So it kind of makes sense, right? So in this case, I'm going to be talking about student, and you know that we got to call a function by its name. We got to call a struct by its name. We also got to call an array by its name. But when we are calling the array, about 10 minutes ago, I told you that we call the array and we need to access it by its subscript. So that's what's going to happen out here in array of subscripts, or array of structs, sorry. Array of structs, not subscripts. Subscript is the index, how I'm going to access the array, right? So that's the important concept to keep in mind. Now, if you know how to define the array, then you kind of know how to access the array. And in order to access the array, you got to store values in the array. And that's what takes place in this function out here. Lines 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, that's where I am entering values into my, my struct. This is the instance where it changes, line 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, is where I'm entering values into the field array of structs, right? Remember my joke earlier on, I asked John the question, knock, knock, who's there? He said, array of structs. That's what we're doing today. We're talking about these lines out here, lines 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, right? And I'm entering values, not just into the field of the structs, but into the array of structs. And every single element in that field will be an integer. Why? Because that's what I specified in my declaration on the top over here, that num marks is an array, integer values, maximum 4, starts from 0, goes to 3, and every single one of them will be integers. So what I'd like to do now is just get a taste for this program. I know it works. Let's run the program. Let's see what happens. So let's go for it. Build and run. I'm building and running the program. And in honor of John being here, John, you still here with us, John? Student Maravati, student John, student Brian is here.
Yes, sir.
Great. Is that student Maravati? There we go. It says student 0, enter the student's information. So I'm going to enter the student's number. Student number 101010. Oh, you're a binary student. Okay, student Maravati.
Yes.
Name is student Maribati, student Maravati, right? Check this out, student Maravati. You are on the recording. Yay.
Yay.
Right. Okay. So I hit a miss there. Let's redo that one quickly. I hit the wrong number. And this is the danger when you're doing a program and you are doing it in front of everybody and you hit a miss. Let's do a quick build again. This is Kajal's program in honor of her. Let's do a build and run. So student number 10101, and it's Maravati, student Maravati. So assignment 0, all right. This time I'm counting from 0. Like I said, student Maravati. So assignment 1, you got 90%. Assignment 1, which was in your array of indices, is array index 1. You also got a 90, right? You're a very clever student, right? Because you attend all my tutorials and Zoom meetings and everything. And you got another one for the next assignment and the next assignment. Now, before I go to the next struct, you will notice that I am accessing another student's information. So this kind of gives you an idea that this array of structs is not just having 4 assignment marks, but I'm also going to have more than one student mark being added into, right? Or value being entered in. So let's go for the next student, student number 2, which is student John. And the student number John is 2345112, right? So that's his student number. And the name is John. We're not going to use his surname because then I'll have to use getLine. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge, wink, wink for your assignment question. And student, for his assignment, his first assignment, okay, it's calling it assignment 0. I'm going to show you why that happens. But John, do you have an idea why it's calling assignment 0? Or student Maravati, do you have an idea why it's addressing it as assignment 0?
First, the first index or subscript of the array is 0.
Correct. That, and
Exactly.
also that your for loop starts from a particular instance, and I'll show it to you in there. All I'm doing now is I'm setting you up. I'm keeping the cognitive structures in there to show you that a loop start from 0 and array we start from 0. So student John also did quite well. He also was in the 90s. And I'm just going a little bit faster because I got to go shopping after this, right? Okay. By the way, thank you for the Zoom sessions. At least now I can cut out in the mornings between shopping and between gardening and all that. But don't tell anybody, right? Shh, especially the one. Right. So don't think that I'm having the Zoom sessions just because I get out of doing all the other work. Right. So let's look at this output that I have. The output goes like this. I've got two students. This looks like a student record. So there's two student records, and within the student record, I have particular fields. And within those fields, one of them has to do with an array, and they've got 4 assignments. So now I'm trying to culminate and bring all the concepts together, right? For those of you who are Indians and you know we have biryani, we make biryani, we put everything together and we have a biryani chow, right? The rice, the lentils, the vegetables, all of it, right? So this is what's happening right now. I took structs, I took arrays of structs, put them all together, and that's what came up here. So this actually leads you on to files and databases and all that goes with it. But that's not part of the COS 1511 course. That you probably will do in 1512 and second year as well. So keeping this in mind, now that you know how the output appears, we're going to look at my program. So student Maravati, can you see both my output and my code?
Yes, sir.
All right, great. So if you notice, you know, you told me it was assignment 0. Here we go. There's the reason. There's no magic in programming. The for loop starts from position 0 and it goes up to the maximum value of the array. Now, this also ties in with what you know about the definition of an array. An array is a data structure, definite starting point, definite ending point. It also ties in with the definition of a for loop. For those of you who do my lesson quizzes, on a for loop or a while loop or a do while loop, you need to know the differences between the two, right? But just as a matter of interest, the for loop, because it has a definite starting point and a definite ending point, it's the ideal loop to use for the array. I've been in programming for a very long time, from the 90s, late 80s. And whenever there was a data structure like the array that we used a for loop, because the loop will run from the beginning of the array till the end of the array. So just like if I'm looking at my output on the top over there, my output says that I have assignment 0, assignment 1, assignment 2, assignment 3. I won't say assignment 4, and that's the reason behind it. Now remember I told you that when I'm calling a struct, like say for instance, I need to call student Maravati now to unmute and talk to me. So I'm going to say, student Maravati, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Yay, student Maravati. So I called you by your name, right? Okay, your surname
Yes.
doesn't, right? Surname, right? I'm trying to be respectful and all that goes with it. But don't worry, you're my student, right? So the same thing happens when I'm talking about a struct. I need to call it by its name. I need to call it by its name. And the name of the struct here is student P. But because I want to be specific and I want to access the marks of assignment 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, I will now need to call it not just by its surname like student Maravati, I'll say Maravati. I'm going to say student Maravati. And if I want to be more specific, I'll say Mr. Student Maravati. How's that, right? And if I had 2 students that named Maravati in the class, I would say Mr. Student Maravati subscript 1, Mr. Student Maravati subscript 0, Mr. Student subscript 2. You understand? If I add more, that was my stance at trying to be comical and humorous. There's only 2, and I'm calling you. Hey, I miss the face-to-face lectures. You know, I could get your feedback, your laughing, your smile. But anyway, I got it on the WhatsApp group. You'll say that I must not change my day job. Okay, I understand that. Right. So that's what's happening out here in lines number 21, 20, 20, 24. I'm accessing the struct name, the struct field, and then I'm accessing the array subscript. That's what transpires out here. Student Maravati, do you get it?
Yeah, I get it. I get what
So
you're
talk to
saying.
me, tell me back to me, talk to me back. What do you get about how I'm accessing the array of structs while I have a sip of my coffee?
I'm gonna tell you what you're doing on line 23.
Yes, talk to me, how, explain to me what is line 23.
So in line 23, you're calling the struct by its name, which is student P, and then you are assigning it to the array which we define as marks. So in that position I, so it would either be position 0, 1, 2. So it's subscript. You assign whatever mark you put in there.
Correct, right? So that's exactly what I'm talking about. Calling up this, the struct P. Within the struct P, we have a field. That field is an array, and we've got to store the elements 1, 2, 3, 4, or 0, 1, 2, 3, right? So that's what's happening out here in those lines. Now, if you were in my class last week, last week's meeting, not in the class, next week is going to be a class. Yeah. See, this is a computer joke, like a high grade joke. Only people that are doing meetings and classes will understand this thing, right? That's why I got to stick to my day job. If I'm going to make this joke with the, catering class, they won't understand this thing, right? Class, yeah. Right. So there's my display. Last week's Zoom meeting, we were talking about the shirt style, shirt size. Same thing happens out here. But when I want to print or display the elements of my array, I got to declare it and display it within a for loop. Because I've got 4 marks coming out. There's it out here. There's my marks. Assignment. By the way, you'll need this for assignment, the next assignment as well, right? So keep this in mind. I'm calling it by its name, like I'm calling student Maravati, Mr. Student Maravati. I'm calling it student P, marks subscript I. So there's basically 3 parts out there. If I have array of structs, there's one of the rules that we made up. We need to specify the index. Let's start from the left-hand side. Then I need to specify the array name. Then I've got to specify the struct name. Okay, Mr. Student Maravati or Mr. Student John. Hello, if I'm calling you by a full, respectful name. Mr. Student Maravati, you still there with me?
Still here, sir.
Yeah, can you see now if I want to call you by a full, complete Mr. Student Maravati, if I want to call up the array of structs, I got to say struct name, the array, and the subscript. Okay?
Yes.
Right, so that's important. That's what I need you to get through to understand the concept of array of structs. And well, this is a simple function out here. It's nice to go through that because we'll revise that later on. We did this lesson, Fun with Functions, some time ago. And here's my main program. So let's see how this program runs. When I'm running the program, I'm running from the main program. I have a few declarations out here. And remember, we had 2 students. We had 2 students. One was student Maravati and one was student John. And the way I did that is when I called it up in this loop, for my, because I'm a bit lazy out here, I didn't want to enter 10 more students. I didn't want to waste your time. It's already 20 to 1. I said, I'm only going to enter in 2. And that's where I enter in the 2 students. So out here, I got my for loop for I equals 0 to number of students. And can you see in line 44, I said the number of students to be 2 because John, I have to let the secret out. John and student Maravati, we had a conversation before we started the Zoom lesson. So I knew there was only 2 students going to be here, at least 2. I know there's more. I can see all of them there. And I said, I'm going to enter those values for student John and student Maravati. And that's what I did out here. In line number 53, you'll see I'm calling up the function. Quick revision of Fun with Functions. One of the reasons we use functions, it's also a question in the lesson quiz. It becomes reusable. We write it once and we call it up 2-3 times. If I went and changed this number of students to 10 or 100, like I've got 260 in my group E, then I would have had to run this loop 260 times. And every single record will have whatever's declared in my struct, right? It'll have a student. In my case, let's go to the top. It's going to have a student name, a stud number, and 4 assignment marks. Every one will be the same, which ties in with what we spoke about array of structs. An array is a data structure. All the elements are the same. And in this instance, or in this case, I shouldn't say, oh, instance is another hectic word to use because that comes up in object-oriented programming. Even the word case is a hectic word to use because, you know, we have a select case as well. But that doesn't matter. What would be the situation is that every single record will be identical. What will change will be what I'm putting into the record. Student Maravati, student John, how's it going? I can see student Brian there, student Rendani, student Gilbert. Any questions? Ask me a question. Yep, anybody with a question, raise your hand. This is the whole purpose of having a Zoom meeting, our last meeting for June, so that you can ask me questions. It's a synchronous session. I know you'll ask me questions beforehand. I know you'll ask me in the WhatsApp group and all, but don't worry. Here it is. You ask a question. Oh, I can see somebody in the chat. There's a question in the chat. It says, oh, okay, don't apologize, Brian. It's okay. I leave my mic on as well, right? Don't worry about it, Brian. Cool. Anybody else with a question? Let's see if I cover. Yes.
Yes. Okay. When you said you made the joke about array of structs, I actually thought of it the other way around. So from what I see, you define the struct with, say, the char type or int type, and what you've done is that you say, okay, you have the array living inside the struct. From what I see, is that
yeah.
So I actually thought you were saying the struct lives in the array when you call it array of structs. So essentially what you've done is, okay, the array is defined inside the struct. Is that the right way to think about it?
Yes, that's a nice way of thinking of it. Yes, you can think of it like that. The array is defined inside the struct. The struct is like your file, it's your record, yeah? But you see the way they wrote it out in the study guide, they say arrays of structs, right? So that's how I'm trying to keep to that convention. But you've identified lovely, and I'm so happy you got my joke as well. I gotta tell you this joke as well. Now, many years ago, I used to be a high school teacher, and I used the analogy about a computer virus. And I told them it's like when the computer gets sick and it's infected and so forth. And in the exam, that's exactly what the student wrote when the computer gets sick. So I got to be very careful about that. Right? This is just an analogy, all right? Just to teach you. Thank you for laughing. Yay! At least I know if I don't make it as a e-tutor or a lecturer or a researcher, I can go into stand-up comedy. And that's what I like. I like to make people happy. At the end of the lesson, you must get enjoyment, because when you're happy, you learn. You know, your emotions also affect your learning as well. So thank you for that. That's a very nice way of looking at it. Your array is actually within the struct. Yeah, good. Cool. So you're marrying the two, right? Great. Thank you for that. Next question or comment, anybody? Please. While I have a drink of water, I get thirsty. I talk for 40 minutes at non-stop. Talk to me. Anybody with a question or a comment? Let's go and see and have a look if I've completed what I set out task to do. So I said in today's lesson, there's the here's the screen dump or the screenshot or the printout or the snapshot of it. It's on my Wakelet page, and if you look at it, there's 1, 2, 3 records in this case. Each one is student Prinavin, student Kajal in honor of her. Oh, I did it again, Kajal, right? So today I want to answer the question, what is a struct? A struct is a data structure. Struct actually is a short word for structure. It's a data type. You can think of it as being a record. What is an array? An array is also a data structure in C++. An array stores values. All of them are the same. If I put the array of structs together, like student John mentioned, array is inside the struct, which is true, and I join the two together, and in order to access it, I need to access its name, its index, and I use a for loop for that. Why do I need to use an array of structs? Because sometimes when I am accessing a data source or a record, all the fields are not the same. It changes. For instance, in my shirt, it's the color, it's the size, it's the type, right? Or a student record for that matter. You will not have all the same subjects. All of the marks are not the same. That's the purpose of having this array of structs, where we have different fields, but we want to collectively address them. So if I'm talking about student Meravati, I'm talking about student Meravati or student John, I'm talking about their student number, their surname, their initials, their cell phone number, their home address, their course mark, but each one will have the same type of structure. Hey, there's the word struct in there. How do I use an array of structs? I use it within a struct. It is declared as a field. And if I need to use an array, I have to use a for loop. That's how I use it, right? So in terms of my methodology, I use code blocks. I did it. Let's talk. Anybody else with a question, query, or I'll quickly go and show you my championship round in Moodle. Anyone with a question or a comment? I'm trying to keep to 1 hour. My wife says again, don't talk too long. She needs to go out, she's got a function. So tell me, anyone with a question or a query or a comment, or can we call it a day? All this is on the Wakelet page. All you need to do is just click on a link. Anybody with a question or a query? Oh, please, there's a competition going on about Save the Soil, right? I made a little video. Please share the YouTube link with everybody. I know this is a little bit of an advert over here. There's two things there. I want to teach my students about climate change and saving the soil and what they can do as well. And I wanted to teach them about video editing skills as well. So I like it. I don't know what it's sitting at right now on my YouTube link. Let's see if I can go there. It should tell me how many. Oh, it's only 3 minutes, 50 seconds, right? So please go and look at that, Save the Soil. There, see, I'm wearing my red shirt again because I know I was making a video. Red comes out somehow nice in there. Student John, student Meravati, is my video playing in the background there without any sound?
Yes, it's playing.
Oh, okay. But there's no sound. Please watch it on the YouTube. Right, if you got data, I'll get an extra link, extra view, sorry. Right.
Just
any questions?
Yes. Thought. Now I'm just, when you talked about the structs and calling it a record. So I was just noting down here. Just to another word I thought of is like a template.
Yes, I like that word. I like the way you think. Yes.
So, like for instance, in this one, we've got, if you have a template as a form, you've got name, and you can write the different. So that's I'm just trying to make it easy for myself to understand. So okay, it's a template.
Yes. With
different types of data, with different data types on the template.
Yes, with different fields. How different fields. Yeah. Yes. Nice, okay. Nice. I like that. Thank you for that, student John. I see you're clever. You know what thing you're talking about it, and I know I'm rubbing off on you and all of the thingy. You're thinking about templates and inside of the. That's good. That's good. Well done. Okay. So you've learned something within the last 50 minutes, student John.
Yeah. Quite a bit, yeah, thanks.
I'm happy for that. Otherwise, I would have given you back your money or your data for this Zoom session, right? Thankfully. Another joke. Yeah, I'm on a roll today. Lots of jokes. Thank you for that. Yes, so student John says it's a template. So think of this as a template. Yeah, I like that word. And that's a nice way of looking at data structures as well. So you keep one template in mind. And in the exam, when they ask you a question, even if it means you're writing this template on the side and you're as rough work, and then you address the question, it's a good way of doing it. So I think I have a past year paper. Let me go right to the bottom of the screen. There's a past year paper somewhere here. There's it. So if I'm thinking of John's example of a template, so you see I'm keeping John's wording, here's my template of a shirt. All I know is my shirt had to have a style, a color. And in this case, it's a product with price. So that's the template that I had. And I'm taking that template and I'm applying it to this exam question. I think it was 2015, 2016 question, right? So that's a nice one. By the way, John is hitting on one of the psychologists, Piaget. He spoke about the concepts of accommodation and assimilation. John, I'm just showing off now, right, student John? Okay, that I know something about education and pedagogy and teaching. See, I'm throwing up big words. Yay! You must know that your tutor is, has some knowledge about teaching you, right? So thank you very much for that word template, right? Though a template is a cognitive structure that you keep in mind so that you are able to comprehend and answer this question in the exam. And that's what we're interested in, you passing this course and passing it well so that you score a distinction. It'll be so lovely to see that, right? Thank you very much for that. Any other questions or comments? I'm looking at my time. It's like 5 to 1.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. And who am I speaking to? Thank you for the lady, female voice.
It's Babalo.
Mabalo, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
I'm ecstatic now that I have a female programmer. We did some research. There's so few female programmers out here. It's always a male-dominated world, and I'm not sure why. I need to do more research.
We try.
Thank you.
Trying to change.
Keep trying. Bring the sisterhood into programming, right? Yay.
Yes.
Where are you logging in from Babalo?
And Joburg.
You two from Joburg. Hey, Joburg in the house today. Pretoria, Joburg, right? What's your question or comment?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, I was doing assignment 3 and I have a problem with my marks displaying on the report. It keeps 1 mark and then it populates all the subjects with just 1 mark and a code. So I wasn't sure, is it a right place to then use the structs in order for the grade and the code to change? Okay,
assignment 3 is the flight booking example.
No, it's not the flight booking, it's a report, student reports.
Okay, all right. I did that question a couple of lessons ago, Zoom lessons ago, I spoke about it.
Is it?
Yeah, I did. I went through that with the students. I don't do assignment solutions, right? I don't do assignment solutions. You need to struggle and work on that on your own. But if you can email me your code and I can assist you in looking at that. I love a challenge, so you have my email address. I won't mention it here because it's a recording, and we'll look at that. Or we still have time. We can, now that you asked the question, next week before I start with my Zoom class, not a Zoom meeting, then we'll talk about it, right? But email me in the meantime and I'll have a look at it. It's very difficult to answer a programming question without seeing it in action. It's like when you get sick, you go to the doctor. The doctor has to go and look at you and check you out and test all of this. Or your car is broken. It's not. You got to take it to the mechanic to ask him to show it to you, right? So that's what I'm asking of you for the code, right?
Okay. I'll do so.
It's a simple matter. It's a simple thing. It's either your parameter is not being passed properly, or your loop variable is not being initialized and set properly. That's what I suspect could be the problem, right? Without having a look at it. Unless you want to share your screen and you want to do it, and then it becomes a recording. But because it's an assignment question, I don't want other people to copy your code and your example. All right.
Okay, I'll send an email then.
Great. Thank you very much for that. And keep it up. Keep the sisterhood. Get more sisters into the programming, right? It's a hectically male-dominated program, literally program. Thank you. Next question or comment? It's coming up for 1 o'clock. Yes, no more questions, queries? All right, let me quickly share my screen with you. I've got a student, John, you are in my group 70, huh? Or student Meravati?
No, sir.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
No, we are not in yet. I'm not.
Oh, Both of you are not here. Okay, doesn't matter. But I just keep this on the recording. Here's my championship round. So the only way you can answer the championship round for everybody is if you go through lessons 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the lesson quizzes as well. You do championship round 1. You go to, I've got 23 lesson quizzes. And guess what? There's 160 questions. I actually, selected the easy ones, and you have 2 hours to do that. 160. Well, the marks is 223 because some of the questions I give a little extra marks, like 4 or 5 or something like that. It depends on the complexity. And it's all the theory questions. It's all from the important points in the lessons. I want you all to go through those important points, have a reading knowledge. And the way I ask the question, it's not just simple recall. I twist and turn the question around. And maybe there's 1 or 2 words in that question statement that will make it false. So don't fall for that trap, right? Please answer that. And don't worry, student Maravati. I will share this with everybody because sharing is caring and caring is sharing. But for now, it's a little bit of a competition with my students so that I want to see who does it first. Like, let's say, for instance, lesson quiz 22. I've got some champions out there. Let's just log in again. I've been out for some time. So that's the reason I don't want to share it. And also then they start sharing answers on my lesson quizzes and then it becomes, it's not a competition anymore. All right, so if you look at lesson quiz 2, which I opened on Wednesday, there was 8 attempts. So you can see Adrian Durdle, 10 out of 10. And he took 1 minute, 27 seconds to answer it. Kajal, you have to do it again. Okay, it doesn't matter, you're learning. And the second time around, she's got 10 out of 10. I'd rather you get all the answers incorrect now so that in the exam, you have an understanding of all your concepts. This is also a foundation programming. For you to do 2nd level, 3rd level, or to learn any other programming language. If you learn C++ well, and you do it nicely, hey, you can tackle, another language. It's easy as can be, I feel.
Sir,
yes.
Why are you speaking about another language? Can you please give me a quick differentiation between C++ and C?
Okay, that's nice. C does not have the plus sign. C++ has the plus sign. Okay, right? See, I told you, you got the joke. If you think about it, by the way, I learned programming in C as well. The CS50 Harvard Extension School course, right? They use C. This was like a year or 2 ago. And now they are in Python. C is more of a lower level language than C++. That's the way I look at it in terms of the way the syntax is written. I think we use C out to display. C uses the language C I'm talking about, printf. And if you want to display a value for a variable, you got to use a percentage sign and all that goes with it. But the concepts, my student Maravati, which is a very nice question you asked, remains the same. A variable will store values. You'll need a for loop to repeat something over and over. You'll need to have a decision statement taking place, if-else statement, right? You'll need functions. You use that in C programming and C++ programming. So it's just the way we're talking. So for instance, if I had to bring this down to languages, in my culture, I will say vanakkam. Vanakkam means good morning, good afternoon, hello, how are you, right? So in English, I'll say good morning to you. In Afrikaans, I'll say goeiemorgen. But the essence of me greeting you will remain the same in Tamil, in Afrikaans, and in English, right? But it's the syntax, the way I'm talking and writing it. So I would talk about an example, object, verb, subject, whatever. That's what I'm getting at in terms of the language. Now, just to whet your appetite and talk to you about C++ programming language, we all into the 4IR, 4th Industrial Revolution, and we're talking about robotics and all that goes with it. I found this online, a course, C++ for robotics. Student Maravati, can you see that? Check it out.
Yes, I can see it. I'm going to check it out. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So I hope I motivated you as to studying C++ and to continue with, and to become proficient in it, to become, I'm so happy that we have a female programmer out here as well. It's because you can now start to program robots. And that's what we need. Don't worry, the robots are not going to take your job all the way. We, the programmers, we'll just switch it off, okay? We'll put the power off. Or we'll just ask ESCOM to do some load shedding and the robots don't have power. Yay, hey, I'm on a roll today. I'm on a roll with all my jokes. Right. Okay, so there we go, C++ for robotics. Huh? Check it out, check it out. There, which language to use, Python or C++? Please go and click on this video. The guy actually talks about C++ programming. And I felt so happy that here I am. I teach you guys C++. One of you, out of the 200 and odd students that I have this year, and over the years that I had, hopefully one of you will tell me one day you've developed and designed a robot using some skills that I taught you, all right? Because let's face it, I suck as a stand-up comedian, right? So I gotta stick with what I have right now. Okay. So student Maravati, it's 1 o'clock. With that, I want to call it a day. Thank you very much, everybody, for attending. I appreciate your time, and I hope I taught you something new, something new and to help you with your assignment. This is our last Zoom meeting. You're supposed to be sad, but don't be sad. We will now be having classes. Yeah.
Classes.
I know for those of you who haven't done the next lesson, so I'm just sharing my screen now. Hey, lesson 30. Come on now, get it? Lesson 30. Right? So,
Classes.
Yeah, right. This is what object-oriented programming is all about. Can you see it leads up to this classes where you set up a class and you are able to use that in your programming examples, and you become one that shares your classes with other programmers, and they are able to import it into their program. And that's what leads you on into the field of robotics, where you create classes and you use that and over. So when I ask you the question in the WhatsApp group, the question is, what do we need to do for next week and the week thereafter? Now you're going to say, sir, can we do classes? Okay. Right. So with that, I'm going to stop my share and I'm going to stop the recording, and we'll call it a Saturday afternoon. I'm so happy you're here. And some of you still stay till the very end. Oh, there's Tando. Tando, there's a question. Tando says, how do we access the WhatsApp group? Okay, Tando, let me quickly share that with you. I'll do that in the chat. I don't know whether I can have any more students on that group because, oh, Tando, just send me an email or a WhatsApp. You're right, you should have my number. Right. I don't want to put that in the recording because then you already see my cell phone number. Thank you, everybody. Anyone wants to put the camera on so they can see who they are? One day we need to take a class photograph, right? A Zoom meeting photograph. From next week, I will be talking about a Zoom class, right? Yay, thank you for that. Thank you for that, yay. Anybody else with the camera on? Nobody else, okay. Oh, I'm gonna be in trouble. I told my wife 1 hour, I'm 1 hour, 5 minutes over. Whoa, and she knows I can talk a lot and I have lots of questions, right? So let me call it a day. I gotta go shopping, right? But thank you, thank you, John, for the Zoom session. I spent the Saturday morning preparing for the lesson. Now I did the lesson, so no gardening for me. Check, John, right? Thank you for that, lovely. I'll remember you, John, with the struct and array inside the struct and the word template. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, sir. See you in the class.
Bye, John.
Bye.
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 Bye. Bye.
Bye.